Wow.
Wow, this is some really deep stuff.
I don't know what just happened, but something happened inside of me. Something snapped, something.
I wasn't expecting that either.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. It's beautiful.
Monster is like really small, but it had to become that to stop me.
And then the hurt child became present when you mentioned it.
And I didn't realize this until now.
There were things that I didn't remember until now.
Funny, I haven't seen that before.
And it feels like I'm the monster. I'm kind of seeing images of things, of a world where they can exist. This clarity brings all kinds of answers.
It's clear. She hugged me and then went back to her place, I guess, in my heart. Oh, it wants to come out. It wants to bippity boppity boop Cinderella me. She's melted into my chest. It's ooey gooey.
All week been finishing things, cleaning up more, started eating vegetables again last week. And it kind of just started happening. It's almost like I just finished going through a meditation session.
I feel light, when you hit that first joint, in the morning, and you.
I actually feel a lot more awake.
So, yeah, anything you'd like to talk about? Anything that's up for you? Any parts you'd like to get to know better or change your relationship with?
Yeah, so I've been, I guess, kind of in a stage of life where I'm trying to allow other parts outside of that safety part to have a say,
right,
and to manifest them. And so one of them is kind of my fun, I guess, let go part. And so it really, a different part poked its head today when I was actually in the car dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And this other part came in and started actually making me feel like I don't deserve to be happy, or why am I dancing? That's weird. That's ridiculous. Or that I should feel bad about feeling happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that was it's a pretty strong part.
Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to explore that today.
All right, let's go for it. Where does it come up in or around your body? What does it feel like?
So when I really focus in, it almost feels like a slice through the middle of my body up to my belly button. And it's right down the middle. And it feels just very concentrated, very compact down the midline, like a black color, maybe. Yeah, it's yeah, that's what I would label. Yeah.
And as you notice it there, how do you feel towards that part?
I feel kind of hesitancy, why are you here? A little bit of annoyance at it being here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So, see if you can address that annoyed part and ask it for space so that we can get to know this part that doesn't want you to have fun, and just see how it reacts to that.
Okay. It's funny because this is another part that's somewhat associated with it's almost like a bull. Like I feel like these two parts are bullies. Like they're like this part's making me feel bad or guilty for wanting to expose that other part. It's interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
The part that was part that was kind of like almost like feeling a little bit hesitant, but yeah.
Well, it might have very good reasons for those concerns. So, you might want to hear it out and just see what it might need from you to give you some space in this conversation.
Okay. Okay, I think that it's more allowing.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like it's not really giving a valid, I would say like a valid reason. It's just this like this weird static like hesitancy and also kind of like a guilt, but it's I think it's willing to step aside.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it can always come back in if it needs to. Just
okay.
I was just thinking about other ways to address it, but if you feel like it's given enough space to go forward, then that's your call. How are you feeling towards the don't have fun part now?
The negativity is gone. It's more like a curiosity because it seems like a very, like when I'm looking at it from a distance, like a very tall part, like kind of daunting part. But I'm not. I'm no longer like hesitant to it.
That's great.
It's just observing it and making notice of that. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So let it know that you're curious. Invite it to the conversation. Do whatever you can to just kind of deepen your access to it.
Okay.
And then try asking it what it wants you to know.
Okay. It's definitely a part that's rooted in my childhood. It's kind of like making these statements like why should we be able to have fun and enjoy things when like life is so difficult, and it shows me like the struggles my mom has gone through and all my family members and things like that, about kind of like it's kind of like highlighting the fact that life is like misery.
Mm-hmm.
So what is there to celebrate?
Yeah.
Why do you get to have fun while like your mom I don't know, went through XYZ and things like that.
Yeah. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Great. So let it know that that makes sense to you.
Okay.
And then you could try asking it what it's afraid would happen if it didn't get your attention that way, if it let you have fun.
It's interesting because like the moment I was like, it's allowed, it's okay. it kind of softened a little bit. And was like actually surprised that I was like, it's okay. It feels like a part that doesn't recognize kindness or happiness at all. And let me see, as far as your second question. I don't think this part's like aware that it can like do or be anything else like that. There's other options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not going to try to force it into any other roles. Like it doesn't want this other part to have fun. It doesn't want you to have fun, but that doesn't mean that we're going to make it have to join the party if it doesn't want to.
Okay.
So yeah, just keep looking for what it's worried about, what it's afraid of, what's behind that, what would be so bad about just not showing up in that negative way.
Okay. It's very rooted in shame and allowing me to actually enjoy aspects of my life or enjoy my life. It's immensely just this toxic kind of shame of like, no, we don't deserve that. Why would we do that? Let me try to go a little bit deeper. So when I ask, what would happen, what's the worst that would happen in allowing, I guess, us to enjoy life, it's kind of like it's interesting because it doesn't recognize what enjoyment is. It feels very foreign to it. It almost feels like wrong to it, but it also, I think it's afraid of what life might be like without it existing if I just completely let go of that part.
Right.
And it feels like I might forget it. It feels like it's an important part.
Right.
Yeah. And I think because it's rooted in childhood, it's almost like it doesn't want me to forget my roots, where I came from, how far I've come. And that just letting go and just enjoying life is not what I was taught or allowed to do as a kid. And
and
that's the rules it follows.
So that that makes sense, right? I mean, that to keep you from forgetting, or to keep you from, I don't know, maybe letting go too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let it know that. And see if you can show it some appreciation for looking out for that.
Yeah.
And remind it that there are no bad parts. So we're not ever trying to get rid of any of them. And we want to help it find its ideal way of being. That's our goal. We want it to be able to relax. We want it to be able to enjoy its job.
I had let it know that, and it was saying, it's like, well, what happens if you forget everything you've been through? Like, what happens if you're not holding on to, all the childhood, like, trauma or neglect that you've been through? What happens then?
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like it's definitely protecting, for whatever reason, preserving the, I guess, the lessons or the experiences that I had in childhood.
Yeah.
Even though they weren't positive experiences.
Still important experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think our goal is to, not to delete any experiences, but just to not let them hurt anymore. So
yeah.
Again, that's kind of our goal, is not to get rid of it, not to get rid of the memories, but to be more at peace with them.
Yeah.
Does it have an age? Can you tell if it's older, younger?
Let me see. It feels like a feminine but panic struck part.
Mm-hmm.
The age, it feels like it thinks that it's older than me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. You could kind of let it know your real age, just in case it's seeing you as a very young person or younger than you are.
Mm-hmm. I feel like in showing it my age, it really, it's definitely like probably like a middle-aged, or maybe just like, I don't know, 20 years older than me, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Not super old, not young adult. But it was definitely like, oh, you're an adult. Like it kind of, it received the news and it was actually news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I might suggest kind of returning to that question of what it's afraid of. So
Okay.
we're not gonna if you're not gonna forget the memories and you're not gonna get rid of it,
Mm-hmm.
then what else is it afraid of?
Okay. At asking it again, it sounds like it's afraid that I'm going to create a new identity based on other parts,
Mm-hmm.
because I guess my childhood has been a part of my identity and been a part of just, I work on healing my childhood trauma a lot.
Yeah.
And it just feels as though accepting a new part to, I guess, shine, it definitely feels, it's scared. It's like scared to death about that.
Yeah. Yeah. You could maybe just try showing it some of the other work you've done with parts and how that has influenced your identity.
Okay. It's asking like, okay, so how do I had showed it the part of me that was like this like older father figure that was very concerned about safety. and how he's multi-purpose
Yeah.
now. And it was like, okay, well, what do I like? It started turning smaller and shrinking,
Yeah.
and it was like, well, what job do I get? Like, what do I get? It just started
great.
reverting. Yeah.
Yeah. What does it want? What would it like to do with that, with its energy in its perfect world?
Okay. It's asking like a pretty valid question for itself, and it's saying like, how do we even begin to enjoy life considering everything we've been through, our family's been through? Like, how do you even, it's become more curious about how to, like, how am I going to do it? It's basically more concern for me. Like, how are you going to enjoy life knowing that, what you've been through, instead of it having that role of constantly reminding me to not live my life and not live to my fullest because I have suffered before and I know what suffering is, and that I should feel guilty about it if it doesn't have that role. It's asking, how am I going to maintain that role?
Yeah. And what's your response?
I almost I want to clarify for this part that I am not forgetting the experiences that I've been through. However, these experiences are not who I am. And that, I can hold them, as they apply, but that I'm not going to, being that they're not who I am, they're just a part of my history. I don't need to allow them to guide the rest of what I do, but they are not forgotten. Yeah. And also that I almost feel like asking it, because it's almost making me feel guilty for feeling alive. And it's almost like I want to ask it, like, where did you get the impression that we should feel guilty?
Yeah.
And in thinking of that, like, this part is just saying, like, well, no one else in your family has had that opportunity. Everyone's come from like poverty, and everyone's come from, bad situations, or, I'm like a first generation American, things like that, that it's just saying that that's where that idea that, like, who do I think I am?
Sure.
To like actually enjoy my life comes from.
Sure.
That it has. Yeah.
Yeah. And it sounds like it kind of coming from a compassionate place. It wants to see everybody, be lifted up.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That is true. There is a root in that, in that it just feels like it wants to, like, not forget in order to honor all the, like, just the things that have happened.
Yeah.
And to the people around me. And it almost feels like disrespect if I'm here trying to actually enjoy my life and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a couple of things on my mind about this. One is that, you can offer it, and like you can take steps to honor the struggle. There are things you could do with it, and you could ask it, what feels right to do that. There's all kinds of activities or things that you could make or contribute to or incorporate into your identity that would honor those things. The other I was thinking just now is you're going to hold the memories, but you're also going to hold the parts. So if there's a childhood part, a young part, you do want to continue listening to that part. You do want to continue letting it have the chance to speak to you and influence you. So I just want to kind of make sure that you have that distinction, and this part has that distinction between memories of external events and parts in you that that experience them. That might be pretty abstract, but
And in this case, it'd be I think it's like a preservation of the memory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, we can preserve memories, but we don't want to lock up the parts and their experiences. We don't want to put them on a shelf. We want to get those close. So I just want to kind of make that distinction.
Okay. Let me see how it might react to that. It's almost like it feels like it embodied and took on the representation of these events rather than, like, I think it was under the impression that like it was, but it's interesting because it feels like a mature part, and I went through all these events when I was younger, but it almost feels like it definitely is like protecting, like, I don't know, the younger me.
That's usually what protectors are doing. There's exile parts, and so you could just kind of let it know about your work with exiles and your work with younger parts, and how, again, when you heal those parts, the goal isn't to wipe their memory. It's to bring them closer to you, bring them into the present. And in a lot of ways, you're activating all kinds of memories when you get back in touch with them.
Okay. And presenting this idea to it, it's more willing to integrate into the present. And it's showing me like this idea of wanting, almost like I saw the image of like a table, like wanting to come and like sit at the table instead of, I guess it feels like it's been on the outside, or like I'm trying to let other parts speak and live, and that this part is being left behind, and so it almost wants to get integrated. Yeah.
Great. Well,
yeah, like having a seat at the table.
Yeah, welcome it. And just again, how does it want to be? How would it like to show up?
Okay. I think it's trying to suggest that it wants help in changing perspectives, where when I'm having those moments of having fun, it wants to see that as like the child that went through all those experiences is being itself, instead of seeing it as something where it's, disrespecting, my history and my parents, and
Yeah.
that in a way it's honoring itself and honoring the just the fact that I get to do that. Um, it's just suggesting like a change in perspective. I'm to see kind of like exactly what to do physically for that, but
Yeah.
I think that's what it wants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It cares a lot about what kind of this word honor. It cares about honoring the past, and there's honoring the struggle, and there's also honoring the beauty and the life.
I think its new role that it wants to take on is that of like a supporter. Almost like if another part of me, or maybe a childlike part of me, wants to come to the surface, I think that it wants to, because I just saw an example of a childlike part of me coming to the surface, and its first initial reaction was to say no, but then it immediately changed and tried to kind of like lift it up,
Wow.
or at least allow that part to do its thing. I'm still trying to see, maybe physically how I could manifest this though, but like it's telling me at least what it wants.
Yeah, I mean, it's really beautiful.
Great.
I think and it might take some time, to figure out how that's expressed in your world, but it sounds like a pretty big shift already.
Yeah. Like it's definitely a well-meaning part that I think was just really caught in just a lot of anxiety and worry, just making sure that I don't forget my roots kind of thing, and not having a job. But let me see as far as maybe what actions or what I would need to do.
Yeah, what would it like to see from you in the future?
I think that it would appreciate me maybe journaling, maybe putting to paper, like just like the memories and experiences that I've had, like to sort of like preserve that in some way, or to reflect on them, or to like make use of all the experiences that I've been through, or like I just see like a journal, like that's what I, yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to memorialize those things.
with the whole aspect of it that's worried about me kind of dishonoring just my family and experiences like that. I think it's more education on my part to let it know that I don't have to suffer because my family has.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that it's okay for us to have to grieve that they've suffered,
Right.
but that we don't have to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I mean, it's because you're not talking about just being carefree. You're talking,
Yeah.
Grief is its own struggle, is its own work, and that could be, the step that the in-between step between this struggling of the generations and the 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 ideal kind of free existence might need to be that grieving.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when it comes up again, if you're in that situation again, you're dancing and it chimes in, maybe you could kind of brainstorm with it now about like how you'd like to hear it and how you'd like to just work with it in the moment. I don't know if that'll be helpful, but it's just kind of reimagining the scenarios.
Absolutely. So let me see. It's interesting. So when I put myself in that scenario of being in the car and dancing again, and this part is letting go of pushing back on that, it almost has taken its own role of being like just a root, like a part of me, but it's just it's interesting. Like instead of being this part that just like slices through me and it's just like this extreme guilt for even existing, at just having fun, it's almost like just a small circle at the middle of my chest that's just kind of like the root from which these other parts get to display themselves. And so it's not as, I guess, piercing. So it's, I wouldn't say it's pushing its agenda anymore. It's still there, but it's not as prominent.
It sounds to me kind of like a counterbalance. Like, which would be another name for a root. I mean, a root is holding on so that those other parts can be out there on the edge.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, a counterbalance.
And that's wonderful. I mean, getting all these parts to in harmony is really the goal.
Yeah. And then like me, just imagining that my kind of reassurance that it's like like it's okay for other parts to have fun. I haven't obviously forgotten about you or forgotten about what I've been through, and that's always going to be there, but it's not something that we're going to rule our lives by. And I just find myself like reassuring it when I put myself in this scenario. Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's a complex part. It's a very it's interesting. It's different than the others. It's definitely complex. I think it's just because it's so rooted in all the childhood trauma that it definitely feels like, instead of just a part of me, it feels like a foundation of me. It feels like an integral part of just me as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I have very similar parts to that have that same kind of feeling, and some of them are around. They have some fear, and it's fear that should be honored. It's not like crazy anxiety fear. It's like legit. There's real things that really shape who I am, and it'd be crazy to forget them and to ignore that.
Yeah. Like this part's definitely very, very rooted in, just the whole family aspect. So it definitely cares about others. It cares about the experiences of others that I've had, and others that they've had. And, so trying to I guess repurpose it wants to be good to everyone. It wants to be good to my family. It wants to be good to me and support me, but it doesn't want to let go of just everything that I've been through, and and in memorial of all of that. It's very interesting. It's a complex part, like you're saying. Yeah.
Well, how's it all feeling in there now?
Let's see. It definitely feels like it's been acknowledged in some form. Like I've brought some light to it. I'm more aware of it. I had thought that this was a part of me that was just trying to just guilt me, and it was a plainly bad part, but it's not. I think there's a part I'd have to do more work with for sure.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's so all bad anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have any more questions for this part, so I would go wherever you want to go with it and just thank it for showing up, and thank any of those other parts that gave you space to talk to it.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it's okay with that for now, because I can see that this part is it's persistent. It's okay, I'm not going anywhere. So bye. See you later.
Yeah.
It's not mad at me for, parting, I want to say.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
And when you think about that, journaling and such, I'm curious what your, when you think about, okay, I should journal about this. I'm just kind of curious what your parts practice looks like, because every time we talk, it sounds like you're telling me that you're doing work with your parts, and so I just would love to know how that is for you.
That's a great question. Let's see. And is this a question that I should ask the part, or just for me right now?
Oh yeah, I'm just asking you.
Oh, okay. When I think of just writing down like my own just process. Like I think that I want to just almost like have this part write me a letter kind of deal, where it's just saying all of, maybe it feels extremely guilty and sad about everything my family's been through and just needs to express it, or just instead of holding it, because it feels like it's really holding on to it. It really feels like a like that centered core feeling of just holding on to all this pain and all this stuff that people have been through and carrying it. So I would start that way. It's just it writing a letter to me.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And you make time for this stuff. You, like, that's not some abstract might do someday in your mind. I'm always curious because I talk to all kinds of people and I never really know, the great ideas we have in these calls, like which of them get manifested in the outside world.
Oh, I definitely, at least for me, I want to call it like self-improvement, but just working on myself and facing my shadows is something I feel like I do like a hobby. Like it's literally like a,
it sounds like
a lifestyle.
It sounds like it to me, the way you describe it and the way you show up every call, like having done work and having, like, where you want to go, with parts, you have this facility with them where it's like, you're not like reinventing the wheel every time you have a conversation with parts. So it shows.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a lifestyle. I'm big on just childhood trauma recovery.
Me too.
Huge on that. Like I'm part of like an association for it, and I'm like going into like trying to go into coaching for it. Like I'm really, really big on it, and like books and all kinds of stuff. But really, like my biggest thing of just right now, what I'm doing is just noticing my parts as they come up, practicing other parts as they want to be expressed, and just really just noticing that interplay. That's huge. And then the other thing I'm trying to notice, and this is just my own personal aside, is just noticing where my nervous system is at on a regular basis, and just kind of keeping track of that. Because I noticed that whenever my childhood parts are triggered, my nervous system goes haywire, like they're disconnected. And so I'm trying to take notice of both things. So yeah. So I'm very happy to have these calls with you for sure.
It's great.
It helps. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have that kind of like, and we all do. We have this space of like the nervous system, and these kind of looking at the body, and then we have these memories and this like kind of cognitive space, and we're kind of bridging that gap and like noticing where parts, how they show up in the body. And ultimately it's like, what is there any separation? It's all in the body, and that's where we live. So it's it's fascinating.
Yeah, and like every type of like, I guess like childhood trauma or just trauma healing modality like supports IFS. So like it's definitely tied 100%. It's huge. It's very helpful. And I mean, at least I don't want to like delay the call too long, but
sorry, no, it's my favorite thing to talk about.
I know, me too. It's just God, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I lost it.
You were saying about modalities that support IFS.
Yeah, so I feel as though it helps me to integrate my like the experiences or like the parts of just basically those childhood parts of me that suffered trauma and don't know where to go, don't know what to do. They influence my nervous system, or etc. And it just helps me to just integrate them and like reparent them. Really, it's yeah, that's the biggest help I would say it's been for sure. And just also just noticing that there's parts of me, not that it is all of me. That's been huge.
Yeah.
Just saying, oh, there's that part that doesn't want me to have fun. It's okay. That's not all of me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, if you have any other ideas or thoughts or even suggestions about what I could be doing or what you'd like to see in our work together or in this kind of project, or I mean, it sounds like you have so many other modalities that you're familiar with and able to work with. So, feel free to just throw them at me or to make suggestions about any of that.
For sure. Yeah, and then, they'll be in contact and things like that. Right now, this is the biggest thing I'm doing, and just routine, just coaching. And I have a I want to say like a spiritual coach. I think spirituality comes in. I don't know if not everybody's spiritual or religious or anything, but I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual, and so I think that definitely ties into just me kind of being able to feel into my body and understand that I'm part of something bigger, and so I have a spiritual coach that helps me to do that and to sit back and observe instead of trying to force things into place and really acting on all these parts at the same time, or determining. Just it's a really nuanced process, I'd say. But that's where I'm at.
Your coaching is all around trauma?
Yeah, so I just finished I guess an initial certification for childhood trauma recovery. And at least for me in my history, I've had abandonment, and I have no problem sharing it either. My dad was incarcerated when I was younger, and then a narcissistic mother, and then just just living a very isolated childhood. We had really no, with my mom the way she is, we had no family. I wasn't allowed to have friends. I was better. I learned to be loved when I was quiet and silent and out of mom's way.
Yeah.
And that, I think that resulted in a lot of parts of me that just never got to have a voice, never got recognized. So yeah, all this work is coming together a lot now. That's just the gist of it. Just in case that helps anybody that might have something similar. So yeah, I was just inspired years ago to just go into healing myself, because I just never felt complete or whole in any situation I was in. I would attract really negative situations, negative relationships. And so now that's where I am. I just finished my certification, and it's funny because I want to go into coaching, but I also am coached. So I feel like it's I'm in this full circle. And the IFS is really unique because I've never, I personally don't know anybody outside of you that kind of coaches on it. I learned about it briefly in the program, but I don't know anybody else who really does it. And so it's really unique and really nice to be able to do this with you for sure.
Yeah. And so in your coaching, do you talk about parts at all? I mean, does that language come up?
In coaching, it does. It doesn't go this deep into the process though, but if I do notice that someone might have a part, or maybe if the way that I would notice myself is just being oh, that's just a part of you. It's not all of
you.
And so that's really helpful to help other people recognize, at least the way that it helps me to recognize that. I don't go as deeply. I'm not as great at it, I would say, as you are. I'm not trained in it or anything like that, but it is, it's something that I point out, and I think it makes a difference for other people to know that.
Yeah.
To learn to recognize, oh, that's just a part of me. Okay. Because it feels so powerful in that moment. It's you. It's all of you. Whatever part comes up.
Yeah, well, if you'd ever like to play with it from the other side of the table, let me know. We can. I mean, I want to do the work with people, but I also want to see more people just be able to do that with other people. So that's kind of one of my other big goals is like, just seeing more people using it.
I would love to. I would love to go into learning that and diving deep into that for sure. I'll be in contact about that for sure.
Great.
Yeah.
I do peer work with other people, and like I'll record those too where I'm the client and they're the practitioner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's fun.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I would love that.
Cool. We'll talk about it.
Okay.
Well, it's awesome talking with you today.
Hey, thank you so much, James, as always. You're wonderful.
Thank you. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Alrighty.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Do you want to help bring more self-energy to the world? If you'd like to participate in calls or help out with this project in any way, I'd love to hear your ideas. Join the Discord server or contact me at james@liveifs.com. A huge thanks to our audio engineer, Zikri, for your care and diligence in editing the calls. To every caller for your courage in sharing some of your parts. And to anyone out there getting to know their internal system, keep going. Who knows, that might be the most selfless, helpful thing you can do for others, and you're the only one who can do it. If you'd like to see us reach the largest audience, we must please the almighty suggestion algorithms at iTunes and YouTube. And they don't care about the power of IFS. They're looking for likes and shares and comments, and the sooner the better. Follow the links in the show notes right here in your podcast player to make your wishes known. And now, a minute of meditation. Or if you prefer, pull over. You can do it in 60 seconds. Just click one of those links. They're right there, and give us a like or a 5-star rating. It would really help. If you think this project is helping people, you're helping people by sharing it. Thank you.